As long as I can remember, I've always loved art, particularly things like 2D animation, anime, things like that. And so I've always wanted to learn to draw myself as well, so I can make cool stuff on my own. So maybe 4 or 5 times in my life, I've done the thing where you Google learning how to draw, right? And you find books like Fun with a Pencil or other things by Loomis and stuff like Drawbox, right? So there's been maybe 4 or 5 times in my life where I've, thought, okay, let's get going. I'm going to learn how to draw. Finally, it's time. And then about 2 weeks later, I give up. I'm completely out of motivation. I'm frustrated with my results, and I just feel like I never really could do it. Until about 2 years ago, where I thought I'd try again. And this time it worked, which is really cool. This is just kind of an overview of some of the stuff I've drawn over the past 2 years. I'm really happy with my results. And it made me start thinking, what changed? What am I doing differently this time that I wasn't doing before? Why am I able to sit down and draw and enjoy the process this time? So I've been kind of thinking about that, and I narrowed it down to, I think, 2 major points that I'd like to talk about briefly in this video, in case somebody else is having similar issues of motivation. Hopefully it'll help you out. So, having looked into all these different drawing methods over the course of my life, I realized that they all have one thing in common, and that's that you need to draw. You need to draw a lot if you want to improve. That's easier said than done, however, especially if you have issues like me, if you have issues with motivation, right? And so the way that I found to tackle that, specifically issues of motivation, is rule 1 here: make drawing into a habit. Now, habits have the amazing power of completely eliminating everything that has to do with motivation. So what I did to start to make sure that I had a habit going is I would do 1 hour of timed poses every single day. And this is what I started out with. Soon after, I started doing additional stuff on top of that. I would do an hour of timed poses, and then I'd do like maybe a quick rough sketch of some fan art or something, or I'd start working on something bigger. But the point is, something changed after about a month of doing these figures. It started to feel like if I missed a day, it would be wrong, So my motivation kind of shifted from being about learning how to draw to continuing the habit that I already had going, right? And I started making something like this every day, just pumping them out. And pretty soon I realized like, hey, I'm onto something here, right? So when it comes to drawing every day, making a habit of it, there are 3 main points. Number 1 is never break the habit. The whole point of having a habit is keeping it, right? So the idea is if you drew something today, you win. It's that simple. All you have to do is put in the time, an hour a day. Just focus on that and keep yourself accountable, right? So that's point number 2, actually. Hey, I keep myself accountable by streaming my work. I stream everything that I draw. I don't know why that just kind of works for me, but you could join a group, post it online, or take a class or something. The whole point is you can't really depend on other people. You need to make sure you are keeping yourself accountable. You're the only one who can force yourself to draw every day, right? You have to do it in the end. And then the final thing I'd like to say is that you can warm up first, right? So I find that a lot of the time when I'm doing my timed poses, they're pretty mindless. I don't really care about them, but sometimes one of the poses will be pretty cool and it'll give me an idea for a rough sketch later, right? So the whole point is to make sure that you're drawing every single day. That's all. Okay, that's rule number 1. I just want you to keep that in mind, all right? Just a little bit of time, whatever works for you, just make sure you're doing it every day. So the next rule is actually one of my favorite mantras here. You'll hear me repeating it all the time. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, what do I mean by this? Essentially, you have to give yourself the right to suck. So all of these are drawings I'm not particularly proud of, but the whole point is that I go into every drawing knowing that it won't be perfect. And so I'm expecting there to be some every now and then that I'm not really too proud of, right? So my goal when I'm drawing is not to create something amazing. My goal whenever I'm drawing is to beat the urge to give up. I don't care about the end result. As long as I finish it, I win. You know what I mean? Done is always better than perfect. So that leads me to another point, which is, what does perfect even mean? I think it can take a while to really understand what you're capable of as an artist. So I think a lot of us in the beginning stages of learning how to draw will have an ideal in our mind. Maybe it's like a favorite artist of yours, somebody you want to emulate, kind of like the ideal art that you want to eventually reach, right? But that's not always very realistic. I think a lot of the demotivating factors and the frustration that comes with the beginning of art is that you're trying to reach toward this ideal before you really understand what you're fully capable of, right? It takes a long time, maybe a few months, before you've really gone through the process of doing a drawing from start to finish, enough to really know what you're actually capable of. And I think that's important. So starting out, I think it's a good idea to leave this for a little bit later, right? So I put together a graph that illustrates my experience with the drawing process. Okay, so on the right here, we have your drawing level. Think of it like your experience points. Every time you complete a drawing, whether it's good or bad, you gain 1 experience point. Okay, and then on the bottom, we have time. So every time you complete a drawing, that's what these red dots are here, the quality of the drawing, when you're finished, it feels like it falls between a window of maybe plus or minus 25 or 30% of your overall drawing experience, right? So sometimes you do better than expected, sometimes you do worse than expected, sometimes it's right on the, right on the boundary, sometimes it's really good, and we'll say the top of this line is perfect, okay? And the bottom, this is just really bad, you had a bad day, right? So when I say I aim for about 60% of perfect, what I'm aiming for is something like this. I'm not aiming for anything magical up here. They'll happen occasionally. These ones will also happen. So you need to be ready for that. The cool thing about this graph is that over time, if we get rid of these, something that you considered perfect will become normal. As long as you keep drawing and you keep practicing, you will keep improving. And perfect, 6 months ago will become normal today. And that's the magic of it. That's something that I realized teaching myself how to draw over this past year. So the last thing I want to mention about this graph is it illustrates an issue when it comes to comparing your work. So I don't like to compare things day by day because you can have a huge swing of a good day and then a bad day, right? What I like to do is take stuff that I'm proud of, like this day here, and then I look back 6 months or so and I try and find something that I was happy of back then too, because then I could see the huge difference, right? For example, if I go here, these two were drawn 2 days apart from each other. This just happened to be a bad day, and this was a particularly good day, I think, right? What I like to do is compare another day that I felt was pretty good, maybe 4 or 5 months ahead, right? Compare these two instead. Instead of looking at this, compare this. So by following those 2 points, making it into a habit and then not really worrying about the end results, I found that I'm able to just completely enjoy the process of drawing for once in my life, right? This is just me messing around with landscapes. I've been doing this recently. Some of these are really fun, right? But the whole point is it's no longer a struggle for me to practice drawing. I do this naturally every day. So those 2 simple rules helped me finally learn how to enjoy the process of drawing. Just 1, make it into a habit, and 2, don't worry about the end result. Because you basically have to let yourself suck, right? That can be hard to do, but I'm really not worried about it anymore. If I don't know how to draw clothing, I'm still really bad at clothing, right? Hair is also really hard. There's all these different things I suck at, but that's totally fine. I don't care anymore because I enjoy the process. And I'm finally able to, do fan art like this of the, stuff that I really love. So it's really cool. I gave up learning to draw so many times over the course of my life because I wanted to create nice art, but I didn't want to put in the work. Drawing is really hard. And it never really gets easy because every time you learn something, you'll see 2 more things that you need to improve on. So if you're having troubles with motivation, I suggest making drawing into a habit. Do it every day. An hour a day is fine. Just do it. The point of having a habit is keeping the habit, right? You have to give yourself the right to suck too. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you suck at something, take a note of it, keep it in mind for next time, and you will improve over time. But if you can learn to enjoy the actual process of drawing and not let stuff like failure, disappointment, bad days, or harsh criticism get in your way, you will become unstoppable. Trust me, there's really nothing special about me. I'm just a blob. If I can do it, so can you.